Hey everyone, we're here in Osaka, Japan with Duved Dunayevsky. First time in Japan?
First time.
Makohe. And we're here at the String Phonics shop run by Harry Takemoto, who's just behind there. And we really want to thank him for lending us these guitars for the tour and also for helping out musicians all the time. So if you ever come to Japan, be sure to visit Osaka and check out String Phonics. I'll put all the links in the description box and everything. You can send him a message. He speaks really good English and Japanese, if you speak Japanese. And today we're going to talk about some music, some difficult topics. So, by the time you're watching this, it should be the end of the year, and we're having a big discount on DC Music School, where Duved has recorded lessons and many others. So be sure to check those out. And we're not going to talk about the same things that he talks about in those lessons because that will be redundant, but we're going to talk about some more philosophical, music-related questions. So first of all, how do you like Japan so far?
Thank you, Dennis. I'm having a great time. Recommend to everybody, obviously. The food is incredible. And that's my main interest in life.
Main interest in life. So we've had some very interesting conversations over the last few days. I've worked with Duved for quite a number of years, so I know exactly what he wants, how he does things, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. So one thing that we've talked about a lot over the years is this idea of musical hierarchy. What is this? He said music is not a democracy, which I kind of agree with.
That's true. I feel like especially in the, I would say, lower level, not professional level, there is a tendency to people make a big circle and you have, I don't know, 5 guitars, and people just want to have a good time, so each one has his turn, solos, long solos, the whole thing, and the purpose is not, it doesn't serve the music necessarily, it's just about having a good time. And then when they want to maybe become more professional, some musicians tend to keep these tendencies, which should not be there, because when you go more professionally and more artistically, the final product is what matters and not only having a good time.
I mean, speaking of which, someone asked you just over the few days, like his mother, they asked you what's the difference between, like, what's a professional musician and amateur musician? Then you expanded on that, about the art and all that. Can you?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, if we're speaking technically, a professional is someone who makes a living out of it. You can be a bad artist and be a professional, and you can be a good artist and not be a professional. Yeah, but I think there are musicians, it's possible to be good in your profession without diving deep into the art. And what I think most people are interested, I am and Dennis, is the art and how to make the music the best that it can be.
So speaking of which, what we do is something quite specific, you even more specific as well. And when I play with you, I try to go in that direction as well, as far as the company goes. So I think a lot of people are interested, like in so-called gypsy jazz or swing music, whatever you want to call it. But often, what I notice, especially what I like about you, is you really go in for the really geeky details that no one notices. And that's where I think these subtle details is what makes it what it is. So I've heard you talk about this in workshops about like, oh, if you want to do this, you have to listen to see what was the trend and all that stuff. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, if you want to play stylistically, for example, I was saying in the workshops, the choice of notes, you can use any note, but what note you will choose will dictate what style exactly you are playing. Because in different years, there will be typical choice of notes that musicians will do. And then, for example, if you play 40s music, you can still play things that would be typical in the 30s, but not the other way, because that would be anachronistic and will sound weird to the initiated ear.
But there are not many people who are initiated.
Yeah.
And also working with you, of course, we do there's a lot of subtle things that are happening, talking about choices of harmonies, and I've seen you argue with bandmates about the choices of harmony. So is that something that you feel is very characteristic also of the old style, like really choosing the harmonies carefully, minor 7, can you talk about that kind of stuff? Major 7?
Well, I think they played just the music that was playing around them. I doubt they were saying things like, don't do a minor 7 here, because it was just not done. And again, it's similar, it's again the same stuff. Playing a minor 7 in an inappropriate way would just sound wrong to me because it didn't exist in the music, and it doesn't sit together with the general aesthetic. Things like playing a minor 7 that I see mainly more of like beginner players would put it everywhere because they would just know it's a shape. There's a minor 7 there, you can just do both of them, and that's not the case because you have to listen to, and they don't sound the same. A minor 7 is a very spicy sound. It's a strong sound, and especially if you use it, for example, it wouldn't exist in all jazz as a first degree. So if you, I would sometimes hear people play minor swing. That's minor 7 is acceptable in a second degree situation or whatever. I mean, in general, in a second degree. And everything is acceptable if you know how it sounds. The main point is you don't play from your fingers, and you don't play because you know that this is a chord that you can just, here I'm putting this chord. You have to use your ears, and then if it's a choice, do whatever you want. But I feel like more often than not, it's not a choice from the ear, but it's kind of a habit.
That's a very interesting point, because these are things that you can probably only learn by listening to the music itself. And I talked about this with Jonathan Stout as well. There's a lot of people interested in this style of music, and they maybe listen to the soloing part when they get it to a certain degree level. When it comes to the harmony part, the things behind, which is equal important, often they miss this aspect. And I think that's what makes you and other people, like few people, really stand out in this style of music. So how did you go about, like, how important was it for you to not just listen to the solos, but also what was happening behind?
Well, I mean, if you're learning how to play a style, you need to listen to all the little details. And I would suggest, if you go how to go about learning a song, first thing you do, I think I've said it before on some videos, first thing you do, nowadays, you Google the song, you check when was the earliest, when was it composed. If you can get the sheet music, and if you can read music, you can look at that, or just find the earlier recording and listen to that, because that will be the purest, or even several of the earliest, because still the artist will have some choices that might change the song from its original essence. But you want to go closer to the source and learn first the chords. That's the first thing you're doing before learning the melody, and before, of course, transcribing solos and stuff like that. So harmony first.
In the beginning, were your ears able to hear those harmonies, or how did that come about?
It was a process. I've been transcribing music. That's how I learned music from the beginning, also with Jimi Hendrix and whatnot. So, of course, when I changed styles and went into jazz and stuff like this, it was a process. But like everything else in music, it's a lot of patterns. So once you start recognizing things, it's not endless. It's just vocabulary, and it's easier than learning Japanese.
Now, speaking of this art versus pro musician, let's talk about the artistic thing. So one thing that's, I think, is very important to you is just listening and the interaction as far as dynamics goes. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because a lot of people, they just play, just one mode all throughout. But I see when I play with you, I have to be very careful, attentive to what you are doing.
Yeah, and you were doing a great job at that. Yesterday I was complimenting Dennis for, we played a few tunes as a duo, as opposed to playing with a whole band, and if necessarily, not everybody necessarily knows the same style, so a whole band, it would be harder to do these dynamics, and as a duo with Dennis, it was just like, gives another dimension to the music, because obviously the music is not only about the notes are just a part.
But it's also, go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, so playing with you, you're a very spontaneous person. That's how it is when I play with Gypsy as well. All these people in Europe, and you see here in Japan, everything has to be kind of prepared in advance. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that culture where you kind of show up to a gig, you meet the person for the first time, hey, Duved, do you know this song? No? All right, it's in the key of G, good luck.
Yeah, well, that exists. I don't feel that, I don't do that to...
Yes, you do.
Okay, let me say that. The reason that I might add this kind of Dennis told me that always I give him a set list and then we don't play the set list, and I didn't even notice it completely, but now I notice it more, and it's not just to be an asshole or anything like that, it's because I feel like the music, again, the artistry, you cannot decide, it depends on the mood, it depends on the room, it depends on the crowd, it depends on how I feel at the moment, and I cannot predict. I can have like a rough sketch of what I will play, but then if I don't feel it, I'm not gonna play it anyway. I'm not playing classical music, I have to improvise, and if I don't feel that song, if I have nothing to say on this song, I cannot play it. There's no reason for me to play it. So that's why I would be spontaneous that way. It's to serve the music.
And of course, I understand that this is how we learn too. That's how I learned as well. And just to say something, it's not a question, but this is something that can be learned, but you have to learn this way. You just have to go for it. And in the beginning, it is extremely hard. But if you never start trying to learn this way, then you probably never will learn these skills, would you?
Sure, I agree completely, and it's similar to, I know from experience as well, that if you just play from charts, you don't learn the songs. Like you can play the same song for 20 times and not know it by heart, and you can probably just sit down and memorize it for 2 minutes, and that's all. So definitely it's better to have this skill of memorizing easily and seeing patterns in harmony. And once you know the patterns in harmony, it's much easier to, if someone tells me, it's in the key of G, and then he shouts just a few more, he or she shouts just a few more...
or they,
sorry. More hints or whatever, or even if not, if I just use my ears, this music, this specific style, again, it's a limited lexicon. So you just need to pick up a few patterns. And if there's something if it's a weird song, then usually people will tell you, be careful, here it's going to go there and not the other way. So yeah.
I think if you learn, I don't know, a bunch of basic tunes in the beginning, maybe 40 tunes, you start to also feel where it's going. Like
yeah,
a
for
form
sure.
as well.
I mean, 40 tunes. I don't
know. Whatever.
I don't think there are 40 tunes in there. Like 40 really distinct tunes. There will be little details but they're like types of tunes.
Like Honeysuckle Rose, the B section is the same as the Domina thing with little difference, things like that. Exactly,
Correct.
not exactly like you, but Sunside Street, etc.
Sure.
And I remember the first time that we worked professionally was in Wales. I think 45 minutes before the start of your show. Hey Dennis, nice to meet you. I need a rhythm guitar player. And we did almost all your kind of original arrangements. So that was pretty funny. With Adrian.
With Adrian and with
The bass player who also had to, he wrote everything down though.
Electric bass. Electric double bass.
Yeah. So speaking of repertoire, I noticed that you have quite a repertoire that sticks out of the quote-unquote typical gypsy jazz style. How do you go about choosing these songs?
I mean, the reason I like to choose other songs is just because variety. I mean, I've played the popular songs as well, but you get kind of bored from playing the same things. So usually I will either during my life, I don't know, you walk somewhere or you hear a song and you're like, what is this song? I write it down and then I go home and then I look for different versions of it, and then like often I look for songs that I think I'll be able to play in the style as if they were played back then, or even as if they were played by Django, so I would arrange them in a way that would be appropriate for that. And another thing that I do every once in a while, for example, I discovered a new artist or a new singer, they're also artists, a new instrumentalist or a new singer from 20s, 30s, and I will spend a couple of hours listening to all the recordings, even just browse through, and like, I like this song, and then make the list shorter and shorter, and in the end I'm left with five new songs to learn that I know that I can use in my repertoire. So that's how I do it.
That's very interesting. So it really stands out. And also, I'm gonna talk about more geeky stuff about your technique. Actually, I remember when I first met you, your technique has changed a lot over the years, and over the years, I think you've learned how to project tremendously. And is that would it be correct to assume it's because you play often acoustically in settings where you really had to learn to project? It came that way.
Well, I guess so. I don't like playing amplified. I'm never happy when I'm amplified, especially if it's in a closed room, in a small room, like a bar situation. I will play acoustic, and you know, musicians, most of the gigs, even if we do festivals and listening halls or whatever, most of the gigs are in bars. So that becomes like your default, and so I guess
It came natural, and that way it's kind of you had to adapt. But that's how it was. Also, that's maybe another characteristic because I see nowadays in gypsy jazz. They have these acoustic guitars, but they playing small places, but they need the pickup and everything.
that's true. That's true. So I agree with they don't. It's when there is no necessity to adapt to have this like strong projecting technique, because people are naturally just used to play with amplification. Yeah, they will not learn to do that. They will not be able to do that.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And also playing a few professional gigs with you or some like more casual, the way we achieve this is we sit in very strategic ways. Whereas nowadays they have the musicians are far apart with monitors, and the sound check is always a nightmare. I notice when we play together, sound checks last like 5 minutes. We just sit. Can you hear me? Can you all hear each other? Boom. No need for monitors.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an entire art of its own as well.
Yeah, I mean, the band should sit together as close as we can, and in general, I love to hear the bass as close as I can, and we're putting the rhythm section together. So rhythm guitars and bass will be behind, and I mean, there is also, if it's like more of a concert, there's also the visuals. So we will do like you see in the pictures, Django and Pere, and I'll be in front, and Daniel or whoever plays the second solo will be in front as well. But that's not ideal for communication. That would usually I'll do that if the band is like the set is rehearsed and everybody knows what they're doing. But if it's more improvised and communication, it's really much better to be able to see each other and play in the same time and not to look back or anything like that.
So I guess that's kind of an often overlooked aspect of this kind of old style acoustic jazz playing.
Yeah, I think. I mean, there are many things in the art that are. It's natural. I mean, the world is changing and the style is changing, and people adapt to the new technology.
Yeah.
But if what you like is to be able to achieve a specific sound that the way it was, so yeah, you need to look at all of these aspects of sound, of communication. Yeah.
Amazing. So that's it. Maybe play one last tune and then call it a day. Remember, check out In the Style of Duved Dunayevsky on DC Music School, and check out String Phonic Guitars in Osaka. All right?
Yeah. Also, Dennis, we had this new idea. So I have a new project that I'm just really starting to work on, which is musette, playing musette, traditional musette, so 1920s style, kind of like the recordings that Django did in the 20s when he played on the banjo. And hopefully, if everything goes well, we will do another DC school focusing only on waltzes and musette style in general. So
actually, can you explain musette to people who might not know, kind of like a little bit of history?
The musette was the popular music in France before jazz became popular. So we're talking about teens, 1910, 1920s, and to be brief about it, it evolved from shepherd music in the east of France. The shepherds were playing the musette, which was kind of a small bagpipe, and they migrated to Paris in the end of the 19th century, mingled with the Italians and their accordions, and started this style that it was popular music in bars, late night, for dancers. And that's what Django picked up when he was young. That was what he was playing until he discovered Louis Armstrong. So it's interesting to learn that, also to just have even more of the background of the music that we love.